On behalf of the German section of the ICFI, the Sozialistische Gleichheitspartei, SGP, I would like to bring revolutionary greetings to this rally. This May Day takes place under extraordinary conditions. While the ruling class is promoting authoritarian and even fascistic forces, the working class is being radicalized and entering into struggle. If one were to base oneself on the official press, it would appear that the whole of society is moving sharply to the right. In the European Union, 10 countries are already governed by extreme right-wing parties. The right-wing extremist and anti-Semitic Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, recently met with Italy's fascistic Interior Minister Matteo Salvini to announce a new right-wing alliance throughout the continent. In Austria, the far-right FPÖ just distributed a party leaflet on Adolf Hitler's birthday in the city where he was born, Braunau, attacking the integration of refugees and calling them Reds. This had no impact upon the coalition with the conservative ÖVP. But the shift to the right is not limited to the governments, including openly fascistic parties. In France, Emmanuel Macron hailed the fascist dictator Philippe Pétain and has mobilized the army against peaceful demonstrators opposing growing social inequality. In Germany, the grand coalition of the conservative CDU and the social democratic SPD is carrying out the program of the far-right AfD. They are building up a network of deportation camps for refugees all over the country. They are rapidly rearming the German military and building up a police state. The Secret Service is closely collaborating with the far-right AfD and is surveilling and attacking everyone who seriously criticizes the far-right party. For the first time, the German SGP has been placed on the list of left-wing extremist organizations because it criticized capitalism, nationalism, and the AfD. There's no question about it. The ruling elite is shifting rapidly to the right, and capitalism is leading once again to fascism and war. But the broad masses of the working population are deeply hostile toward this development. In Berlin alone, hundreds of thousands of workers have demonstrated against the AfD. They have not forgotten the experiences of the 1930s and 40s when the bourgeoisie consciously brought Hitler to power to smash all opposition to social inequality and war. Workers remember the consequences of this conspiracy. Today, it is impossible to walk through the German capital without coming across memorials and historical traces of annihilation. There is not a family that was not deeply affected by these horrific events. In opposition to the ruling elite, the working class is moving to the left. There are mass strikes in Eastern Europe, protests against the social attacks of the Syriza government in Greece, and the movement of the Yellow Vests in France. And this is only the beginning. In Germany, a movement is growing against rising rents, in which the demand for the expropriation of the landlords is on everyone's mind. The chasm between the ruling class and the population has become unbridgeable. And that is why the ruling class is heading once again towards authoritarian and even fascistic methods. They now want to silence everybody who is even mentioning the word socialism. Last week, the leader of the youth organization of the Social Democratic SPD, Kevin Kühnert, stated in an interview that he's in favor of socialism and explained that socialism is, in his view, a set of mild reformist proposals that would, quote, restore the promises of the social state of the 70s and 80s. But even these tepid demands unleashed a storm of uproar in the trade unions, the government, the SPD itself, and virtually every newspaper in the country. Kühnert was compared to Stalin and attacked for his Marxist ideology, and the AfD called upon the Secret Service to go after the SPD politician, as they do against the SGP. The ruling elite no longer accept even distorted forms of any social criticism because its rule, the perverse enrichment of the very top of society and the drive towards imperialist war, has become incompatible with the social needs of the masses. This development confirms the SGP's fight against the return of fascism in Germany, which is summarized and developed in the book Why Are They Back? We expose the attempts to falsify the history of the Third Reich, which are aimed at reviving all of its methods. And we showed that there is no opposition to this within the ruling elite. After Professor Jörg Barbarowski from Humboldt University in Berlin said in February 2014 in Germany's biggest news journal, Der Spiegel, that Hitler was not vicious and that the Holocaust was not different from mass shootings during the civil war in Russia, not a single faculty member of any university in Germany criticized his horrific statements. Quite the opposite. Representatives of all the parliamentary parties in Germany, including the Left Party, most of the corporate media, and a significant number of academics defended Barbarowski when the SGP and the IYSSE criticized his trivialization of the Nazi crimes. On the other hand, the SGP won widespread support from students and especially among workers. Barbarowski and co. may be able to rewrite history in their rotten academic circles, but they cannot erase the memory of the Nazis' crimes in the population. They will not conquer again. And that is not just the case in Germany. When I presented the book Why Are They Back in London and in 6 meetings across the United States over the recent weeks, hundreds of workers and students attended because they understood that they are confronted with exactly the same issues. They responded very positively to the perspective of the independent mobilization of the working class, the only social force that can stop the rise of fascism. And the meetings themselves made very clear that it is not the German working class that alone will beat the rise of fascism, and not the American working class that alone will do so, but the international working class. But in order to do so, the working class requires a socialist perspective and a revolutionary leadership. This is a main lesson of the 1930s and of Trotsky's fight against the betrayal of the Social Democrats and the Stalinists, who played down the threat of fascism and refused to fight it. The central task is to build the International Committee of the Force International throughout Europe and internationally. That is the only way to stop the fascists. And this is the perspective we are fighting for in the European elections. Thank you very much.